Everybody, we're back today. Locked on Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Today we are going who currently at UGA has the possibility of becoming one of the all-time greats. We're talking top 3 at their position. We're talking Jalen Carter. We're talking AJ Green. We're talking Nick Chubb status.
Ooh.
Are there any players currently that have that ability to ascend to that level? Next on Locked On Bulldogs.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? I am Daniel. He is Clint. Welcome to the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. So glad that you're here. If you're listening on audio, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star rating and review. Thank you so much for downloading the show and subscribing and following the channel on any of those places. FanDuel is who's bringing you today's episode. Want to make sure that you remember that. More on them in a second. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for subscribing. Drop us a comment, hit the thumbs up. And if you're watching on YouTube, go subscribe to the audio or follow the audio podcast on one of those platforms I named earlier. That would help us out a bunch. Thank you for doing that. So, yeah, Clint, we're talking about this roster. Now, it's an interesting thing about this Georgia roster. Loaded with talent. I think everybody knows that. No one's going to make the mistake of saying, I see right now there's potentially maybe 4 guys mocked in the first round for Georgia of the NFL draft right now.
A lot of guys going to that draft again. We're going to hit some more records.
So we hit 5 first-rounders last year, maybe 4 first-rounders this year, but nobody is ever going to make the mistake again of saying that Kirby Smart doesn't have enough talent on his roster.
Don't you dare say that.
There's plenty of talent on the roster, but let me say, see if you agree. The roster does lack a certain wow factor. It lacks a that dude.
Yeah.
Right? Jalen Carter is that dude. He was the best defensive player in college football last year. He's one of the best defensive players to ever come through the University of Georgia.
Ever.
He has placed himself next to David Pollock in terms of greatest defensive lineman in the history of the University of Georgia. So
let that sink in.
If we're to say anything about this current Georgia roster, it's that there are fewer sure things for that. Fewer sure things to make it to the Mount Rushmore of UGA sports. But that's not to say that there are not guys who could make it there. And so that's what today's podcast is about. Let's speculate about the ceiling of some of these guys. And let's talk who are currently on the roster, so not any guys going to the NFL right now. And let's talk about who might one day find themselves in the company of the greatest Georgia players to ever play at their position. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball, Clint.
Okay.
And let's start with the most obvious answer.
This is the easiest thing in the entire world because he's currently already there.
He is, and the room at tight end is loaded. The Mount Rushmore of Georgia tight ends is deep, Clint. The roster is deep of legendary tight ends who have come through Georgia. Yeah. But Brock Bowers is a different kind of dude.
Look, here's the deal. He is built different than anything you have ever seen at tight end. He is not a wide receiver. He is not a tight end. He is not a running back. He's not an H-back. He's not a fullback. He is nothing like you've seen. He is just offensive power is what he is. That's it, period. The guy exudes touchdowns. He just gains yards. He replicates touchdowns. This guy is going to break records. He's going to shatter records. He's an incredible leader. He's given away money so other cats can get some in the NIL collective. He's everything you want in a football player.
And it's the humility, it's the nonchalance that he goes about his job with. He doesn't he doesn't try to draw a lot of attention to himself. He seems perfectly happy blocking down the field, blocking at the line of scrimmage. He's physical, but he's such an elite athlete. He's got such incredibly deceptive and incredible speed that you almost, as a Georgia fan, I mean, I hesitate to even say it, but now going into year 3, you almost get a little used to it. You get a little used to Brock Bowers because not many guys do it from their first semester freshman year, from their first game. But Brock has been doing it this entire time, and Georgia fans
all the time
I think are starting to forget what it is they're looking at here. But this guy's special. He's the best tight end to ever play at Georgia. If he never plays another down, he'll be the best tight end to ever play at Georgia. And that, again, is an incredible, incredible feat. But that's where he is. So
that's great.
Let me ask you this, Clint.
Okay.
Are there other guys on the offensive side of the ball that you think have a chance to get to that elite at their position level, that Mount Rushmore type level?
Look, this is really difficult because if we're going to go, let's start with quarterback. The quarterbacks are going to be, I think, one and done for the foreseeable future. Because if Carson Beck comes out and balls this year and just lights the world on fire, and he gone, he
probably gone.
Then the rest of them behind are the same. They're going to be upperclassmen. They don't have that sophomore, freshman, redshirt freshman feel to them. They're going to come in. They're going to be gone. Running back. Now, Daniel, how can you ever predict a running back to reach Mount Rushmore status?
How could he
at
pass
UGA?
these guys in front of him? I just don't.
Again,
I don't see it happening.
Now, Van Pran has the ability to possibly be called the best center at UGA.
Yikes. I mean, if you were going to do a Mount Rushmore of centers, okay, not offensive linemen, but
Correct.
a Mount Rushmore of just centers, I could see, if he comes out and balls out this year, I could see Cedric Van Pran being arguable to be on that.
It's not arguable. He has another year like he did last year and the year before. He's on the list, Daniel.
Listen, the center's deep at Georgia.
I understand
The list of centers is deep at Georgia. I think Amarius Mims has got a shot.
Yep.
A shot at being on a Mount Rushmore. Now he's gonna have to show up and show out. For example, Broderick Jones, Clint. He's not on the Mount Rushmore of Georgia offensive tackles.
He's not. He's very, very gifted.
He's going to be
good.
drafted in the top 15 of the NFL draft this year.
But
he's not on the Mount Rushmore of University of Georgia offensive tackles. So for Amarius Mims to put himself on that list, there's a really high bar he's going to have to hurdle.
Speaking of tackles in the NFL, Daniel, you know what Andrew Thomas and Jamar Salyer, how many sacks they gave up this year?
Well, it was probably less than one.
That's correct.
It's none sacks.
It's the none sacks.
That's interesting because you know how many sacks that Broderick Jones gave up this year. It was also none.
No, okay.
Interesting.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is interesting.
We're going to come back after this, maybe talk about the defensive side of the ball as well as others. But first, I want to let you know about FanDuel. FanDuel is the place to go. Daniel and I love this place.
We love it.
For all sportsbook needs. It's what you need to do right now if you want sportsbook, and especially if you want to bet on the Super Bowl that is fast approaching. Daniel, you got a quick feel in that game for the people?
Let me just say that. No, I do not have a quick feel in the game. But before you finish this ad read, I'm on FanDuel right now, and I am going to have a random prop bet for you.
Random props are fantastic. Go ahead and do this. Really excited about our new sponsors and new sports betting partner for Locked On because they are the number one sportsbook in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to the FanDuel experience, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. Download FanDuel now to bet on Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. We love them. They're the official sportsbook of Locked On Bulldogs. And Daniel has maybe a prop bet that you need to be looking at.
Listen, What if I gave you on Philadelphia's first drive, right? A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith both catch a pass. Oh, it's not going to let me parlay those together. Ooh, I hate that. Okay, here's what I'm going to do.
Those props.
Philadelphia's first drive, Miles Sanders catches a pass. That's plus 650. You bet $10, $65 right there. Miles Sanders catches a little flare out pass out in the flat. First drive for Philly, plus 650. FanDuel. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Get over there right now.
Daniel, let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Let's talk about potential guys who might be making an impact for us on that side of the ball. Who do you have?
Well, it's interesting because number one, the defensive side of the ball, when you talk about Georgia's current roster, is probably more talented than the offensive side of the ball. Right? I think that's fair to say.
You're not wrong. Nothing what you said is wrong, because if you look at how Kirby recruits and how he's stacked recruitment, the defense will always. I'm going to say this right now. The defense will always have more 5 stars on that side of the ball. I'm fairly certain about that. Total.
But the Mount Rushmores for UGA are also pretty stacked on the defensive side of the ball.
Very stacked.
I've got one easy one. Now, it's not Brock Bowers easy.
No, because he's already there.
And so this guy's definitely not already there. But I'm saying if you're going to talk about guys who have a shot, I think the conversation has to start.
Come on.
Now, I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to go there.
Say it.
I don't know if I want to go there. I think Smile Mondon has a shot. He's not even the best linebacker on the team.
He's not.
But
okay,
I think he's the most talented linebacker on the team.
He's the twitchiest. He's, I think, the fastest.
Yeah.
Daniel. I don't know if he's the strongest, but he's certainly the twitchiest. He's certainly the fastest.
If I were going to go someone on that level,
yep,
I think he's the guy you have to go with, right? I think there are obvious choices on the next level and I think there are obvious choices on the front 4, and I think there are obvious choices in the secondary. I think there's one obvious choice for both of those.
There is one obvious choice on both those levels.
But I think if you're going to go linebacker, and that's why I say I'm maybe starting with a weird one, but I think if you're going to go linebacker, I think Smile Mondon has a shot to continue to emerge as that guy.
Okay, here's the deal. To me, this is simple.
Mm-hmm.
This is easy. Let me go flash, and let me go freak, and let me go recruitment, and let me go possibility to continue playing at a high level this year and the year next, and that's Mykel Williams.
Yeah.
Daniel?
It sure is.
This guy, y'all, go watch that Natty again. I've watched it countless times. It's just on in the background.
Have we watched it? Did you watch it?
I watched it.
Yeah.
Mykel Williams showed out. And go watch Ohio State, because there is another first-round tackle who got, and I'm not using this word out of context or exaggerating, okay? Manhandled by Mykel Williams. Not beat, not, hey, good rep, hey, they get some. No, I mean obliterated, blown past with a rip move that I loved.
Yes.
Mykel Williams is that dude.
Yeah, Mykel Williams is absolutely that guy. And he's got a chance. Yeah, again, he's got a chance to be among the elite pass rushers that have ever played at Georgia. But when you think about that position, I don't know what you're going to call him. Are you going to call him an edge? Or you're going to call him a defensive end? Good Lord, if you call him a defensive end, Clint, think of the hill he's got to climb to get to Mount Rushmore.
I'm just going to call him edge. Can I call him edge?
All right. I'm going to tell you somebody who, now listen, it's not like there's not a hill to climb here. It's not like there's not a hill to climb at safety. There's plenty of safeties who have been through and done it.
I'm just gonna bask in the glory really quick.
But Malachi Starks has got the look and the feel of somebody who built different, a little different than the rest of them.
He built real. Look, I'm not again. Go look at the tape. Go look at what he's able to do. When people and this isn't just me saying it. Other analysis. When you say Ed Reed, Malachi Starks is built in that mold. Okay, like the mold, the ball hawking, playmaking. I will snatch souls as well as cover well in man coverage, as well as be fluid, as well as go up and get interceptions. He's that dude as well. And they have that ability. Anybody else on defense come to mind, Daniel, when you think?
Nobody on defense that just sort of jumps out. And third segment, I think we talk about some dark horse, some real under the radar.
Why don't we do that right after this? Real under the radar, he said. He didn't say maybe could. No, he said real under the radar.
I mean, listen, these are the guys I think that stand out to us, right? Like those are the guys that we have that we have said this guy has a legitimate shot, right?
Yep.
So let me ask you, are there guys who potentially, could just somehow explode onto the scene and work their way there? I'm going to give you one.
Okay. Was this the guy that you didn't say before but wanted to say? Okay.
No, it's not. I'm going to go back to the offensive side of the ball.
Okay.
And it's in some positions that you just sort of skimmed over. I think if there's a quarterback that's going to do it that's on this roster, it's Gunnar Stockton. If there's a quarterback, I'm not saying that there is. And if there's a running back that's going to do it on this roster, it's Branson Robinson, because he's already had the moment that you were like, oh, shoot. Oh, no. Who is this?
That's when he bowled over every TCU defender on the planet.
There was a lot of bad feelings. Defensive side of the ball.
Okay.
I'm going to go ultra young here. Bear Alexander showed me some things last year. I'm going to go less ultra young. Kamari Lassiter could keep coming. He could keep coming. I'm not saying it's likely.
You just named my guy for dark horse, because let me tell you this: if he has a DeAndre Baker type season, Daniel, DeAndre Baker, his final season, there wasn't a pass completed on his side of the ball. Okay, it was freakish what happened. If Kamari has that type of season this year, where it's 2.9% chance of being caught on his side, he might be there. He might be in that Mount Rushmore consideration. I'm with you on that.
Another dark horse. You ready for this?
Give it to me.
Why not Oscar Delp? Clint. Why? I mean, why can't this kid? He's going to get a lot of opportunities this year.
He's the number 2 tight end.
And does the number 2 tight end factor into the offense a little bit?
I think they do. Look, I'm going to give you a real dark horse that's blatantly obvious. First of all, just $1.99. Go ahead and get your Fluent in Curbinese. Fluent in Curbinese over at bonfire.com/shop/the $1.99. Daniel, tell me, I'm gonna paint you a picture.
Okay.
And you tell me I'm wrong.
Well, Bob Ross action here on a Thursday.
Got some very, very happy clouds.
Happy clouds.
You're telling me Carson Beck doesn't come on this year, lead the SEC in touchdown passing yards, has 3 interceptions, runs over everybody in the SEC and the championship and the playoff, and goes to a 3-peat without top-tier 5-star wide receivers like a Jorge, like an AJ Green, has Brock, has Oscar, but doesn't have the guys that we've had before. A solid wide receiver. We have a solid wide receiver room. Okay,
There's nothing
shaky
about him.
But if he leads the SEC, and if he's a Heisman finalist, and he throws those throws like he did on the run to the back of the end zone to Jackson, if he's doing that stuff, Daniel, and he goes a 3-peat,
yes,
why wouldn't he be on the Mount
That's a
Rushmore?
fascinating question. It's just an interesting hypothetical question. Is there any chance that Carson Beck can do something this year?
In 1 year.
I mean, if he wins the Heisman and we go 15-0, win the national championship, he's going to be one of the 4 best Georgia quarterbacks of all time.
He has to be.
In 1 year.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You're talking dark horse. I'm not saying it's likely. I'm saying dark horse. I understand. But could he do it? Absolutely.
I think a guy that, a lot of Mykel Williams love. Rightfully so.
As they should be.
A lot of Malachi Starks love. Rightfully so.
Should be.
Now, I don't know if you recall, but there was a guy named Nolan Smith last year. Factored heavily into the rotation.
Yeah.
And then Nolan Smith went down with injury. And unfortunately, due to some injury concerns of his own, we didn't get to see a ton, but we did get to see some. And I'm just telling you that when you go back and look at that 2022 class, yes, Mykel Williams. Yes, Malachi Starks. But then there's Marvin Jones Jr., Clint. And this is going to be an interesting year for Marvin Jones Jr.
Yeah.
I think there is a chance that by the end of the season, we are talking about the 2 elite edge players, Mykel Williams and Marvin Jones Jr., and we are using those 2 guys as a tandem, as a tag team, not putting one on top of the other, I think the way that everybody assumes.
Look, I'll give you a way off-topic dark horse for transfer portal next year.
Ladd McConkey. Say Ladd McConkey.
No, I'm not going to. Chaz Chambliss, just transfer portal might be calling you next year if what you just said.
I thought you were about to say Chaz Chambliss to be on the Mount Rushmore.
No.
Good Lord in heaven.
Transfer portal,
Daniel,
is what I'm saying. If those 2 guys show out like that, Chaz ain't going to get no run. Daniel,
because he'll get some run. There's plenty of run to be had at that.
We're gonna get Sorry,
but Jalen Walker, he not giving up any time. Jalen Walker not giving up time. He taking time. Anyone can just take.
But what happens when you get the time?
But when you hold the time, that's what you really want. Listen, there's a lot of candidates for Mount Rushmore. It's an interesting team, Georgia fans. I mean, think about this roster. It's an interesting team. We don't really know who's going to emerge. We know we have some guys. There's some sure things. But there's so much youth on this roster. How are they going to develop? How are they going to continue to grow? Who's going to take that jump? Who are we not thinking about at all? Who's going to elevate themselves into this conversation by the middle of the season? Those are the interesting questions. Let us know in the comments who you think. This has been Locked On Bulldogs, your team every day, and we will see you guys next time.
See you.